A couple of teams have flipped the script, taking a bad week and turning it into a great weekend. But one team in Philadelphia may be flipping the script the other way, and it could have big postseason ramifications.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner, and the FanDuel app today. Check it out, and you can start planning your futures bets now. And for my mom who's listening, yes, futures and bets. It's not future bets and not futures bets. It's futures bets. Believe it or not, that was grammatically correct. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called these days. And on Instagram, I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. The best way to get hold of me is right here on the YouTube page. Check us out, and you can leave that hashtag everyday Sully. It helps us find your comments no matter where you are in the social media world. Before we jump into, I'm not going to be covering every single game. Obviously, there was a huge game in Cincinnati and a couple of teams that stumbled into the weekend, showed us a little something. Let's talk about the trivia question. The trivia question I brought up the other day, which was, here it is. Who was the first Toronto Blue Jay to steal 60 bases in a season? And I got a bunch of people thinking it was either Devon White or I got one Lloyd Mosby, and I got a couple of Robbie Alomars, but it was a different Roberto. Roberto Clark, 67, said Dave Collins in 1984. Dave Collins was a speedster. Came up with the Reds, somehow showed up with the Yankees when George Steinbrenner got enamored with him. And there you go. There's a lot of games that are going to be covered, and certainly the Locked On MLB Game Time is going to be talking about some of the specifics of the game. But in some ways, I feel the biggest piece of news over the weekend took place off the field. I picked the Philadelphia Phillies to win the World Series this year. And even with the surging Milwaukee Brewers, the Padres playing great baseball until this weekend, LA with all their star power, I have stood by my prediction of the Philadelphia Phillies winning the World Series. And the main reason is I took a look at their starting rotation. Zack Wheeler is an all-star. Christopher Sanchez is having certainly a Cy Young qualifying season. I think he's going to be a top 3 Cy Young candidate this year. Suarez, Taijuan Walker, Jesus Luzardo. They got great depth in their pitching staff. And you know what? When you have depth in pitching staff, you can survive an injury. But the Phillies announced that Zack Wheeler has been placed on the 15-day injured list, and it's because of a right upper extremity blood clot. And that is a really, really crappy bunch of words to put together when you're talking about a pitcher. 15-day injured list. The clot, this is according to The Athletic, the clot is nearing his throwing shoulder, and no timetable as of this recording for his return. And that really sucks. Wheeler is a tremendous pitcher. He's an ace. He's a legit ace, and he could be a difference maker. Now, as I said, Suarez, Luzardo, Sanchez, Walker, that's a good starting 4 right there. And there's nothing saying that he is gone for the year. But when there's no timetable, and suddenly someone has an injury like this that could have all sorts of weird implications, I'm sorry, we're too late in the season to have someone say, I have no timetable. I'm going to be out for a few weeks, and good luck to you. Oh, I'm sure I'll be back ready to go full strength in the postseason. I want every team to be full strength at the postseason. That's all there is to it. I don't want any injuries, which I know is physically impossible. But I want, even teams I don't root for, I want them to be at full strength. I'm not a Yankee fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I want Aaron Judge healthy in the postseason. I want Garrett Cole, healthy for the postseason because, it makes baseball better. Now, right now, as of this recording, and this might be his stats for the year, if you still look at win-loss records, he's 10-5. I don't really look at those. He leads the National League with 195 strikeouts. He has 195 strikeouts in 148 and two-thirds innings. He has a complete game this year. He has 195 strikeouts and 33 walks. That is a fantastic strikeout to walk ratio. His ERA is 2.71. His ERA plus is 1.65. He is the best strikeout per 9 inning ratio. He is the best whip in all the National League. He is an all-star. He, alongside Sanchez, has a phenomenal 1-2 punch at the top of the rotation. And now you've removed that Jenga piece. Now, if you start Sanchez, and then you go Luzardo, Suarez, Walker, you'll do fine. But I think the big advantage that the Phillies had was basically Luzardo and Suarez and Walker are your 3, 4, and 5 starters. And you put that no matter where, if the Phillies get they're not going to get a while. The Mets aren't going to catch them, but unless they collapse. But whether they get the home field or not, Milwaukee certainly is going to get the bye. And it looks like it's going to be a race between the NL West champion and Philadelphia for what's the other team going to get the bye. And if you have a bye and the Cubs, the potentially Mets, potentially Reds, potentially San Diego, potentially LA, if San Diego passes LA, have to burn through their ace, and then they have to face Sanchez, Wheeler, Luzardo, and Suarez, and maybe Walker. You're not going to beat that. And that's why, even with the Brewers' great winning streak going on, I've been leaning towards standing by my Philadelphia pick. This doesn't torpedo their hopes. A couple of years ago, the Rangers lost Jacob deGrom, and they wound up winning the World Series. It's possible to overcome this. It's just taking away one of the great strengths that Philadelphia has during this whole time. Yes, they have Schwarber. Obviously, they have Harper. Obviously, they have Trey Turner, who's having a terrific season. Obviously, they have a great lineup, and they've done stuff to try to improve their bullpen. But it was their rotation that I think put them at the top of the hill. And yes, I had that as a reason why I think they would be a team that would be able to take out Milwaukee. Usually when there's a team that takes out a big, huge possible favorite, a lot of times it's because the starting pitching does the job well. Well, I'm not saying that this eliminates I'm not even saying Wheeler's out for the year. I'm just saying late August, no timetable. That makes me nervous. And I want him to come back, not because I'm a huge Philadelphia Phillies fan. I have nothing against the Phillies, but I want to see the best of the best in there. And I'm not going to lie to you. When I got news of that, it really, it put a really bad taste in my mouth. Worse, actually, than a Philly cheesesteak, which I hate to tell you, they're overrated. All right, let's hear from our good friends over at FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday. Might be a national holiday eventually for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, my MVP, Lamar Jackson, a long shot division winner, the Raiders, and ready to crown your Super Bowl champ, I'm going to crown the Buffalo Bills. If you do that before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. And yeah, I'm going to say the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. Do you know why? The Bills never let you down. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. But let's just talk about some of the other great. I mean, the Brewers finally lost, and all right, raise your hand when William Contreras hit that 2-run home run in the 9th inning to turn a 1-0 Cincinnati lead into a 2-1 Milwaukee lead in the 9th inning. You thought, I thought, we all screamed for ice cream. We all thought Milwaukee was winning that game. I thought I would have, if I don't know what the FanDuel odds were for that point, but I would think it would be higher than 100% that Milwaukee was going to win that, because that's basically the weekend in a nutshell in Cincinnati. Cincinnati runs up a huge lead against Mizorowski, 8-1. They lose it. They play, they're battling them tough all day Saturday. They lose it. And then here in the 9th inning, and 1-0 game, well pitched game, well played game. Contreras homers, and it's like, this is just it. This is what happens with a charmed life. But Jose Trevino, give him credit. He ties the game, and then the stupid, place where the Manfred man is singled home by Austin Hayes in the bottom of the 10th. And so the winning streak is over for the Milwaukee Brewers. And now they can get back to just being the team that's on top of the world right now. But hey, at least the Reds get to keep pace a little bit with the Mets, who are trying their best to flip the script. The Red Sox blew a crochet game, which they're on the verge of sweeping the Marlins, and but I think they're still in decent shape. They're winning series, and baseball is the greatest sport of them all because the Rangers got absolutely manhandled by Toronto, and they came back the very next day with Nathan Eovaldi on the mound and won the next day. So there you go. Hey, and let's salute the Braves for a second. The Braves are showing up. They made the Mets' lives miserable last week, and now they're making the Guardians' life miserable because the Guardians got swept in another really close game today. And the Guardians had images of overtaking the Yankees. Instead, they dropped 3 games to Atlanta, and the Yankees took all 3 games from St. Louis. And, oh, by the way, the Royals right now are only half a game behind the Guardians. So not only do the Guardians not overtake the Yankees, they could fall behind the Royals. And the Yankees, they won a pretty ugly series. It was a pretty ugly sweep against the Cardinals. The Fried didn't pitch well. They made a bunch of errors. They made some stupid plays. But here's the deal right now. It's going to be late August in just a couple of days. Okay? When you're fighting for your playoff life, it becomes binary. There is no such thing as a pretty loss. There's no such thing as a moral victory. And there's no such thing as a pretty, what am I saying? No such thing as a moral victory and a loss. And there's no such thing as an ugly win. That's what I wanted to say. I'm not even going to edit that out. Right now for the Yankees, it's binary. Did you win or not? That's literally all it is. Did you win or didn't you? Yeah, but it was a really ugly game. Nah. Did you win or not? When you're fighting for your playoff life, that's the only thing that matters at this point. You worry about some of the issues like Max Fried didn't look very good, or their defense still looks bad. And that doesn't. No, stop. Did they score more runs? That is literally the only thing you have to worry about at this point, because you can't afford to worry about style points at this point. You can't. You're fighting for your playoff life. The same thing with the Mets. Playing in the Little League game and everything. You just have to win the games. Doesn't matter how you win. You got to win them. If they're ugly, it doesn't matter. Especially in the American League, where, I still think Philadelphia is a solid team, even with the injuries. And Milwaukee is obviously tremendous. And LA flipped their script too, because they fell behind. They were a second place team going into this series with San Diego, and they wound up sweeping them today with the help of a clutch home run by Mookie Betts. Blake Snell pitched great the other day. it's a clean sweep, and now they have a 2-game lead over San Diego. No style points at this point. Just win and punch your ticket. The Yankees, if they get in as the third wild card team, who knows? It could relax the team, knowing that this has been hanging over the head. And I mean, obviously Toronto and Seattle and Houston, everything are all fine teams, but you could catch any of them on a bad day. Look what happened with the Astros today. Got their lunch handed them by Baltimore, 12-0. So, if you're going to trash the Yankees when things are bad, you got to admit when things are good. You got to salute them when things are good. This is a different situation than a team like Philadelphia or LA or, Milwaukee. You could be concerned about a win and you could be happy with a loss for those teams because they've wrapped up a playoff spot. But if you're either New York team who went into this weekend knowing there was a much larger than zero chance of being pushed out of the playoff picture, then you can actually say, all right, it doesn't matter if it was an ugly loss. It doesn't matter if it's an ugly win. Just wins. That's all that matters. Punch the ticket and take your chance. I bring up the Phillies again. Today they had Nola pitching, and Nola is ostensibly going to replace Wheeler in the rotation. They better hope he comes with a time machine because he let up 6 runs in 2 1/3 innings, and his ERA is now approaching 7. And as it turns out, the rest of the bullpen, save for Lazar, wound up pitching well, and they were playing Washington, who just got clobbered. And so, but the final score was 11-9. The Phillies won a game where they gave up 9 runs. And again, I don't think there's a way in hell you have Aaron Nola make a postseason start if this is the pitcher you're going to get. But if we spend our times punching the New York teams in the face and punching LA in the face based on this last week when all the talk was how the big market teams can't do this or can't do that. Well, take a look at this weekend. Cubs won their games. The Yankees swept. The Mets are, the Mets showed, the Mets actually showed up, and the Dodgers took the challenge from San Diego and counterpunched and won today 5-4, and now are up 2 games. They were 1 game back. Now they're 2 games up. If you're going to punch them when they're down, you have to praise them coming back up. Now, this is baseball. This is baseball, Susan. And we all know anything can happen. And there's about, 6 weeks left in this season. But for those teams that were struggling and limping into this weekend who showed up, it's binary. Did you win or did you lose? And for the New York teams, give the Yankees credit. Didn't get a great performance out of Fried. Maybe that's a reason to praise them. They didn't get a good performance out of Fried, and their defense was still sloppy as hell. And they still won all 3 games. And I'm not going to say, well, they're playing the Cardinals who are flopping. Nope, you got to win the games. Then that shows they went for the sweep today and they got it. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about an anniversary, and this being the day of one of the saddest days in Boston history and one of the great what-ifs of baseball history. Okay, let's hear from our good friends over at PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. The preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Whether you got your eye on the big game quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks is where it's easy to get in the game. And you're going to put your Lamar Jackson. He's my pick to win the MVP. I'm going to be putting my picks on him all year long. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more than or less than a 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. And if you use PrizePicks like I do for the last few seasons, I love how simple it is, okay? And I can get a lineup in before my coffee finishes brewing or before I go out golfing with my cousin Josh and our friend Eleanor. The flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you can still double your money. And PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 up in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. Now, on this day in 1967, a truly, truly sad moment happened in baseball history, and that was the Boston Red Sox were playing the California Angels. That's what they were called then. And the Red Sox had a star outfielder by the name of Tony Conigliaro. And I'm very, very careful to pronounce his name like that. A lot of people said Tony Conigliaro. And our neighbor growing up in Massachusetts, Rico Bianchi, was Italian, not Italian American. He was from Italy. And it drove him crazy when people said Tony Conigliaro. So in memory of you, Rico, who, if you're not in heaven, then they better close the dump. I'm going to say Tony Conigliaro. And if anyone has a problem with that, I'm just going to call him Tony C the rest of the way. He was hit in the face by a pitch from Angels pitcher Jack Hamilton just below his eye. And he would miss the rest of the 1967 season. He would miss all of 1968. And at 22, when he was 22 years old, he became the fastest player in American League history to hit 100 home runs. And after that, he had he came back in 1969 and had was okay. He was okay. He was not the dynamic player he was as a rookie. He had 24 home runs and batted 208 and 290. Then he had 32 home runs and was the home run champion before the age of 22. And then he hit 28 home runs in 1966. And then in 1967, he hit 20 home runs in 95 games and was part of the team. He was only 22 years old. And he was part of the team that was basically redefining Boston baseball, which was the 1967 season. And he got hit in the face, missed the World Series, missed the next year. He did hit 20 home runs in 1969. He won Comeback Player of the Year. And he hit 36 home runs in 1970. But he was then traded to the Angels, ironically, the team where he got hit in the face. And then his eyesight started to his ability to focus started to go away. And with that came, he had to retire from the game. And then shortly after that, by the 1980s, he just had one health issue after another, beyond just being hit in the face. He wound up having a heart attack at age 37. Then he wound up having a stroke and had brain damage from that, and had kidney failure. And that at age 45, he died. And he was always someone who came up when you're growing up in Massachusetts. I was too young to ever see him, but hearing Tony C, he was this mythic figure in Boston for a couple of reasons. First of all, he emerged on the scene as a huge home run hitter. He was going to really, really take aim at maybe 500 home runs, maybe more. He was up to 100 home runs at age 22. He was also paired up with Carl Yastrzemski. And Carl Yastrzemski was the intelligent left-handed bat with great power. He won the Triple Crown in 1967. And you had the big right-handed power to complement him. And a couple other things. He was from Massachusetts. He was a local kid. Who certainly the Italian people of Massachusetts just embraced him like crazy. He was from Revere. He was one of us. He was a native New Englander doing this for the Red Sox. And another thing, he was a good-looking dude. So you had this handsome Italian dude from Revere showing up, hitting home runs out of the ballpark, and electrifying the fans. In 1967, it's very important to understand where the Red Sox were then and the idea of Red Sox Nation. There was no Red Sox Nation back then. Do you know what the big talk about the Red Sox was in 1965 and 1966? Tearing down Fenway Park. Yeah. In fact, there was a period when the Yankees were saying, if we don't get a new park, we may move. And this was less than a decade after the Brooklyn Dodgers skipped town. There is a alternate reality that has Fenway Park thrown into the dumpster heap along with the Polo Grounds and Crosley Field, and Forbes Field, and Connie Mack Stadium as one of these old parks that the old timers talk about, or Braves Field in Boston for that matter. The old folks talk about it, and it meant nothing to us because we grew up with a cookie cutter all-purpose stadium. That's what Boston was leaning towards. And the plans were to build a domed stadium in downtown Boston for both the Patriots and the Red Sox. And connected to it was an arena that would be for the Celtics and for the Bruins. Fenway Park was empty for a long time. They couldn't draw fans there, and it was looked upon as a huge detriment to the Red Sox. And 1967 came about. And the Red Sox, out of nowhere, became a pennant contender. And fans started going back to the stadium, some for the first time in their life. And suddenly, Fenway Park became an asset. People rediscovered Fenway Park while enjoying the first pennant race in realistically over a decade and a half. It had been a decade and a half since the Red Sox were legitimate contenders. And they were involved in an amazing race. And here we are coming down the stretch in August, and the Red Sox are battling Detroit, Minnesota, and Chicago to win the pennant. There were no playoffs. You finish first place, you go right to the World Series. And you had Yastrzemski, who was hitting it left and right, and you had Tony C., the local kid who was going to lead the Red Sox possibly to the pennant. And he got hit in the face. There are a lot of what-ifs in baseball history. But what if Tony C. had not been injured is one that fascinates me to no end. What would have happened? Would he have been a 500 home run hitter? Would he have been one of the people to lead the Red Sox to a title? The Red Sox didn't win a title that year, but they did win the pennant. And the fans showed up at Fenway Park, and suddenly all talks about a Boston Dome was scrapped. But Tony C., the combination of Tony C. and Yaz, if they had been a tandem for all those years afterwards, what would that have meant? It's an absolutely stirring what if. And of course, we saw later his health issues went beyond being hit in the face, as his multiple health issues took him at the age of 45. And I remember when he died, and he had gone into a coma. He had brain damage, so he didn't make appearances at Fenway Park. And that made him even more of a mythic figure. And when he finally died, it was this dagger in the heart of a lot of the New England people who were a little bit older than me. And so for me, Tony C. was always this mythic figure of what could have been with Tony C. And it was on this day in 1967 where one of the great Boston careers was derailed. And there's nothing we can do about that except pay tribute where it's due. Which brings us to our trivia question, which has nothing to do with Tony C. It goes back to the Philadelphia Phillies. Who recorded the first postseason save in Philadelphia Phillies history? The Phillies have been around since the 19th century. They've had postseason appearances dating back to 1915. Who recorded the first postseason save in Philadelphia Phillies history? Put your answers down below. And thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen today. For your second listen, keep it right here. The all-night Locked On MLB game night, every game, every night, until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on this channel, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Easy for you to say. Talking about the Zack Wheeler injury and what effect that will have on the team that I thought was going all the way. Scripts being flipped in New York, Los Angeles, and other cities. And Tony C. May you rest in peace. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.